we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code @night to get 5% off your order. Hello, everyone. I'm Atlas. I'm here to teach you how to upgrade your premium Battle Deckset that just came out. I know Outer Orange did this for Grand Blue on her channel, so if you want to see what to do for that side, go check it out. I'll link it in the description. I think it should be out by now. But I'm here to do the Pale Moon side because I've played Harry since it was out in G, and it was terrible. And then when they brought him in V, it was like completely off the wall with what they were doing. Pale Moon is objectively the worst part of this deck set, but it can be made better, especially coming this summer. So why don't we take a look here? Taking a look here, we have, I first brought up like the deck set as is. So here's the list as you get it, right? You got your 4 Harry, 2 Tricky Assistant, your Starry Pop Dragon, and then all the things that are supposed to work with Harry, right? They give you 2 Magiadel Cutie Paratrooper for all the things that you call off of Harry that are just sitting there. You can now put them to Guard Circle, and then they go back in Soul. So that's a good addition that they give you. They give you Pop, which allows you to then call the Starry Pop from deck or drop zone. There are questions as to whether you should be doing Excel 1 or Excel 2, because every time you call Starry Pop onto the stage, which is when you ride Harry, all of your Excel markers become 1. So they all turn into 1 extra rear guard circle that's called the stage. And you combine all the power. So if you have 3 Excel circles, you get either 15 power or 30 power, depending if you did Excel 1 or Excel 2. There's questions whether to do Excel 2, which means every time you call Starry Pop Dragon or ride Harry, you draw a card, or do Excel 1, which means that you can get to the magic 40k, which gives Starry Pop a crit and no Sentinels from hand. I think it really depends on A, matchup, and B, how the matchup is going. Like, if it's going badly, do Excel 2 so you can draw a bunch of cards and not die. They gave you 4 Masquerade Bunny, which is great because there's no backup ride in this deck. So this allows you to just straight search for the Harry. Glad they did that. They gave you 4 Purple Trapeze, and all the triggers look pretty simple, right? Stride crit, Prankster Girl to search whatever you want, draw PG, and heal Guardian. Great, good job. That was awesome. The Stride deck they gave you is a little like weird, where the idea usually was to go into Dark Lord Princess to then go into Harry or Yvette to get you. Yvette gets you an extra circle. Harry gives you more attacks. So up to you what it is you want to do. But those are both good things to get off of Dark Lord Princess. I'm surprised they didn't give you more princesses, right? Mephisto is not going to be Strode anytime soon. They should have just turned this into an extra Dark Lord and an extra Yvette, but whatever, I'm not complaining. This deck is pretty playable as is, so I'm like, it's fine. Dragon Masquerade Harry's good. Leontina is better than I gave it credit for when it first came out, where it sucks in all your cards and then calls a new field. It's not by Magia, but it is by the Vanguard's ability, so that means all your Magia dolls activate. And then for your G guards, this is a Flexion Chimera? Yeah, Flexion Chimera. Lets you get big shield and you can disrupt the opponent's board. Wandering Dragon allows you to pull big shield out of Soul. So if you soul charged your like a draw PG or your over trigger, it's not a big deal because you can just pop it out, guard with it. This also gets around no Sentinels from hand, so keep that in mind. They're like, all right, no Sentinels from hand. You're like, guard Wandering Dragon, pull the draw PG out of Soul, PG. You're like, oh, and then you move on with your life. And then lastly, 2 Cold Hard, which lets you get 15k shield if you have 4 or more Brazen Soul, which, fine. So I'm going to show you 2 variants of the deck. There's what to do with it now at the time of recording this, which is May 21st, 2023, or what to do with it once History Collection comes out. And I'll explain what History Collection is, because I feel like a lot of premium players are just focused on their Spring Fests and are not really paying attention to what's going on. Us here at Nexus at Night, 2 of us live on the West Coast. we're done with our Spring Fest. So that's all we've been focusing on. Anyway, this is what you can do right now that's really cheap. So you got your Harry, you got your Starry Pop. You take out the Tricky Assistant because you don't really have a way of calling it to rearguard during the battle phase to do like a Denial Griffin thing. And having just like simple removal can be done with Lunatic Dragon Grade 2. So this is Dorian, which is limited to 1, but it allows you to, at the end of the turn, put all your other rearguards into Soul, and then for every 2 you put back, you draw a card. So it will always be awkward in that because of the stage mechanic, you will never put back more than 5, which means you'll always only draw 2, but she kills herself. I think this is more meant to just be like a, one-off thing. Maybe you have a weird board of all Magia dolls that you don't want sitting there because you're playing against Narukami, something like that. This is always a good card, no matter what variant of Pale Moon you're playing, and should always be played no matter what until something about the game changes. This has been good since it came out, and I don't think you ever need to not play it. There's also one Comicality Chimera that I took out instead of Tricky Assistant, which is when it attacks, you Soul Blast, put one other rearguard into Soul, it gets 5k, and then if you haven't countercharged this turn, countercharge 1. So be careful to do this before you do the Magia Doll Mirror Master thing. It's a really good card. I think it's a great tech card. I think if you focus more on the Magia Doll thing, you could probably take this out for Tricky Assistant. I just wanted another way to countercharge because that's been a big weakness for Pale Moon. So you got your Pop, you got your 2 Lunatech, 2 Crescent Moon Juggler, as the deck set gives you, Dancing Princess. Got your Magia Dolls, your Stride Fodder. Pretty much everything else is the same. What's more different is the G-Zone. Now, for people wondering, how expensive is this going to be? I just looked it up. A lot of this stuff is cheaper. A, because they've all just been reprinted. And B, because Pale Moon isn't really super expensive of a clan outside Nightmare Dolls. Nightmare Dolls is where a lot of their more expensive stuff gets to. As of right now, I added an extra Dark Lord Princess, so you can do that twice. You don't need to do it 3 times. The game should be over by then. An extra Yvette. I took the Mephistos out. I kept the Millward just because I didn't really know what else to do. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. Took out 1 Coltard, added another Wandering Dragon, and then I added another Flexion Chimera. So both of these are probably the better G-Guards that the clan has, and thus you should keep them. In my old build, before I sold all my Pale Moon to a friend, and then now I'm getting back into it because it's very cheap, I had 4 Harry just because he has a effect that all your rear guards with a Magi ability get 3k for each face-up card with Harry in the G-Zone. So that's when you stride him. So that's great to do late game. It's also great to do against Link Joker, because for those who don't know, the way that this card's effect works is that choose 2 cards in your other circles, put them into your soul. That means you can choose locked cards. So if you're playing against Chaos, save this for the turn you think you're going to punch their lights out. And then, I think in a world where I'm not trying to hold back, you could probably cut the 2 Millward for 2 more Masquerade Master Harry, but what you gonna do? I think this also is a lot better than I was giving it credit for, because you can go swing with her, suck your field in, call a new field out. It's been about 10 minutes. I'm going to get into the thing that I'm most excited for. So for those who don't know, at the end of the summer in the West, we're getting something called History Collection.
We're from the further future.
Now, to those who don't know, they're errataing some cards and reprinting a ton of others. The reprints I won't get into, but in terms of erratas, the important thing is that all the strides that are being reprinted are the on-hit strides from early in G era. So, what's-his-face Goblet, Divine Shrouded Knight Goblet, Holy Seraph Uriel, Campbell for Gold Paladin. For Pale Moon, we got Miracle of Luna Square Clifford. Now, his old effect was, when it hits a Vanguard, choose a grade 2 or less card from your soul, call it to rear, and then that's it. So that seems pretty whatever. Now, what they did to Gobblade, and what is presumed is going to happen to everything else, because this is Bushiroad, is that Gobblade's effect is, if your Vanguard is the grade 3 Blue Sky Knight alt mile, so the original Strider, you didn't get an imaginary gift this fight, choose 1 or more cards with the sum of their grades equal being grade 3 or greater. So no Stride Fodder crits and no no Sisyllus, or in our case, no Masquerade Bunny. It has to be a grade 3. So a Heal Guardian, a 2, and a 1, something like that. Stride this card from face down. And this is during the main phase, which means you can do things, you can call stuff to set up for it. Then turn a copy of it face up, and you get 2 imaginary gift force. So what people are thinking is going to happen is that you can do this with Clifford, where you go, all right, during your main phase, if you're on Harry and you are a Masked Magician Harry, you haven't gotten any imaginary gifts yet, you discard a grade equaling 3, get 2 imaginary gift Excel. That's it. The other thing is you activate this unit's original when this attacks hits effects, even if it didn't hit. So that's just like a long form way of saying, all right, you can just do the effect at the end of battle instead. So you always get your grade 2 from deck, or in Clifford's case, always call a card from Soul and give it 2k, which is fine. The other thing that is happening, they're reprinting all of the Heart Thumb clones. So for Royal Paladin, it was Bringer of Dreams Belinus, where the new effect, they now have 10k power of trigger power, they have 15k shield, and then they have an effect, which is when they are taken on damage, you draw one. So they're like half a draw trigger, and they're doing this for every clan. So that's great. So we get our Darkside Swordmaster as a half a draw trigger. With all of this in mind, let's look at what I'm going to do following History Collection this August of 2023. So we've gone back to the original Masked Magician Hari. Magia, and Magia is you call something from Soul, and then at end phase it goes back in Soul. So during your turn when your G unit strides, you can counterblast 1. If you do, Soul Charge, choose up to 1 card from your Soul, call it to rear, it gets plus 5k till end of turn, and then at the end of the turn put it back. So that is pretty good. Nice stride still. It's got Hari in the name, which means you have Magia support cards and Harry support cards that can work off of this. And then his GB2 effect is when he attacks, you can call a card from your Soul, and then that unit and this unit get 3k. That's not really important. But what that means is that there's some other little tricks that got thrown by the wayside once V started, but now running something without an imaginary gift has a purpose, because now you can get 2 Excel gifts anyway, and with the Yvette, that's 3. And it's not turned into the stage, it's 3 Excel gifts. So we'll get back to him in a minute. There's Dorian, there's Chimera. I brought back Tricky Assistant because you can now call her during the opponent's battle phase, which means that you can use her to be a Denial Griffin. As well, she's another grade 3 you can discard for the cost of Clifford. That's a total of 8 grade 3s, not counting Heal Guardians. I did Astatic Baton Twirler, which is when placed on Van or rear from hand, draw a card, put a card from hand to your Soul. So allows you to be aggressive in early game and set up your Soul, and then the rest of the game, Van or rear during your turn, if you called 1 or more cards from Soul, she gets 5k. So easy, she hits numbers on her own. This was always kind of like a good card to just have around, and I think the only way she gets better is if she was called from anywhere, but I think they did that on purpose. So like her, I upped the amounts of Crescent Moon Jugglers to 4 because it's a Magia card. It's tied to Harry, but the main thing is that you can call whatever it is you want to anywhere else. It doesn't have to be the same column as him. And the reason I say that is because I have 4 copies of Flying Paraton and 2 copies of regular Cutie Paratrooper, which is when they're placed, in Paraton's case, from anywhere. In Cutie Paratrooper's case, placed on rear due to the effect of your Magia ability. So it's got to be off of Harry's effect or your Magia Vanguards. If you have a Vanguard with Harry, which you will, Soul Charge, choose up to 1 card not named her, call it into rear as the same column as her, and that unit gets plus 5k at the end of the turn. Put that unit, call with this effect to your Soul. So like something that could happen is you go Stride, Harry, Soul Charge, call Paratrooper, Soul Charge, call Crescent Moon, Counterblast, Soul Blast, call something, call Paraton to the other side, Paraton, Soul Charge, call something. Like, you see what I'm getting at here, yeah? I know that you have a thing with Counterblast because that's like 3 Counterblast in a row. That's always kind of been a problem. I put 3 copies of Mirror Master just because it's a thing that you can, like, if you call it off the Vanguard's ability, either from Harry or from your Strides effect, it'll get you a counter charge, which means you can like call Crescent Moon or Paraton from hand and then keep going from there. So 3 copies of the regular Masquerade Bunny to search your Harry. I ran 1 copy of the V Masquerade Bunny, just because it's an easy 13k and is another 10k shield. You can, like, if you don't want to do the, like, get another one of these, just run the 4. It's fine. One copy of Recusal Hate Dragon, so I know Pale Moon, depending on the build, tends to run low in hand. This allows you to be a free PG, and also doesn't have to be called from hand. Like, Darkside Mirror Master, the perfect guard, needs to be called from hand. Lovely Companion needs to be called from hand. This does not. So you can call this out with Wandering Dragon. You can pretty much run any Sentinels. If you want to run Sanctitude, that's fine. Again, my problem was, like, if you soul charge it, then what? It's stuck in there. 3 copies of Rollick. I think that this deck doesn't really get online until turn 3, so you have to not die beforehand, and I think that's important for this. So that's good. I already mentioned Paratrooper. Triggers, the only thing that changes. So drop 1 Hades Hypnotist for the Recusal Hate, which means you're left with 4 triggers after you take out the Prankster Girl. So that brings in Darkside Swordmaster. This is the pre-errata copy because it's not up yet on Decklog. But like I said, when Harry attacks, shove and soul, draw a card, gets 5k till into battle, and then if you take it on damage, you draw a card. This is incredibly good. Darkside Swordmaster is great. Also, Pale Moon is literally the clan that you can call this out and then do it again. So, cool. I'm going to call Periton. Soul Charge. Call Darkside Swordmaster out. Swing with Periton. And boosted by Swordmaster. Swing with Vanguard. Suck Swordmaster in. Draw 1. You see what I'm getting at. And then lastly, the G-Zone. So, again, this doesn't look all that different from before. The big 2 differences are Clifford, like I said. So now at the end of the battle, choose a grade 2 or less from Soul, call it to rear, it gets 2k. Great. And then the other thing with, doing it during main phase, getting your 2 Excel markers. One downside is that you are stuck doing this unless you don't want to get Excel markers. So it's a very straightforward game plan, which if your opponent knows what you're doing, they might be able to exploit that. I'm not sure how necessarily. Damage denial,
we're from the further future,
is kind of a thing in the past. One, because of Heal Guardians, but also we have coming out a Harmonics Messiah retrain where if you go second, it allows you to get another Blitz order that's a 20k shield instead of a 5k shield, like the Quick Shield. Get a Guardian Shield ticket, that's 20k shield. So that's good. But also, in Vanguard or G-Zone, at the beginning of the turn, if this is face up and your damage zone is 2 or less cards, and no new cards was put in the damage zone during your opponent's preceded turn, you can self-damage yourself and draw a card. When that happens, put Harmonics Messiah in here. I think what I would probably do is cut out one of the G-Darts or the copy of Dragon Masquerade Harry, your choice. The G-Darts. Already have Chimera, already have Wandering Dragon. This thing, Doting Harlequin Maha, is... when placed on Guardian Circle, if you have a Vanguard with a Magi ability, you always will, she gets 5k till in that battle. Choose up to 1 card from your soul, call it to rear, and at the end of that turn, they put it back in. If you have a Vanguard without the Magi ability, soul charge them. That's not important. The important thing is that you can pull out Tricky Assistant, which means that when you pull it out on the opponent's turn, you counterblast, choose one of your and your opponent's rear guards, and then put them into soul, and then she gets plus 10k. The important thing is that you can call this off of Maha, use her effect, and then pull something of the opponent's into their soul. Great, you just denial Griffin someone with 1 counterblast. If you're wondering, you can put this back in, which means you can keep it safe from the opponent. That's kind of why it's been brought back in. So yeah, Maha was something that I missed for a long time, but now you can do it again, that you have a Magia Vanguard. It depends on how aggressive the format is, where if it's more rearguard focused, yeah, keep this at 2. If not, then put it at 1. Good to know. But yeah, everything else is pretty much the same. I hope you enjoyed this guide on how to upgrade your premium battle deck set. I'm certainly excited to try, especially once History Collection comes out. So yeah, leave a like, leave a comment, follow us at Nexus at Night, patreon.com/Nexus at Night, all that good stuff. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next.
Oh, for God's sake, why? This is why!